Licensed by the public carriage office, driving around and not being able to work. Now, the trouble is that we're being targeted because we're soft, but everyone's got our details in files under the public carriage office, so we're easy to get at. And because we're all self-employed, we're all frightened of losing our jobs, so we kowtow. I think that's.
So what do you think the answer then is, government point of view?
Well, I don't put it very badly. I think David Cameron said something which has got a lot of sense in it. An awful lot of the crime is amongst young people. The overwhelming amount of young people. And you have to ask, why is it that this generation of young people is different from your generation or my generation? They're the same genetically. They're our kids, our grandchildren, our generations, children. What's happened, of course, is that there's been a long-term attack on the basic unit of the family. The family is now divided. You can be worse off if you're married, living with your wife, bringing up kids, than if you're in some casual liaison, happen to be in the same house, happen to have got two kids around with different fathers. You can be worse off that way. That's part of it. Another part of it, of course, is the lack of discipline in schools. Teachers are not allowed to discipline kids. We went as far as we dared when we were kids. I'm sure you did. I did. We knew there was an end line, and that was it. And you weren't going any farther. So what we have to do is to look back at those causes at the same time as hitting the people who are committing the crime and going for the low-level crime first. It's what they found out in the States. That nobody starts their career in crime as the boss of a gang peddling drugs or doing bank robberies. They all start at the bottom. And if you stop them there, they don't go on into it.
So would that be like a zero tolerance?
Zero tolerance.
The thing is, not when the discipline starts in the home, you're not allowed to discipline the home. And the other thing is, in this country today, zero tolerance, it's not used at all, because any quite major crimes are not crimes anymore, because there's a lack of the police force.
You rightly say about shoplifting. Shoplifting now,
it's not a crime.
Well, no, don't worry about that.
No, that's not a crime.
And the government dodges it all the time. You remember a little while ago, there were a lot of people grumbling about kids riding bikes along the footpath. And not only kids. The government's brave and bold. It brings in a new thing. They can get issued with a ticket. What would you have said as a kid if a policeman had asked you for your name and address? What you would have thought of a name and address pretty good. I did ask the question in that sense. I said, how many of these notices, these penalty checks have been given out, and how many have been paid? And the answer was, we don't know. So I said, well, how do you know if the policy's working? And the answer was basically, we don't know. But it sounded good at the time.
Yeah, well,
you're right though. It has to go back to the family. We have to start rebuilding the family. And we have to stop undermining the family. And there's a lot that's going on in government with that. Not to mention all sorts of other.
Yeah, but the government's not governing our country anymore, is it? The EU govern our country, don't they? We're not running our country anymore, are we?
That's another factor. I heard the Home Secretary today being questioned about this affair of foreign nationals being sent to jail here. They're listed then for deportation when they come out of jail. The first thing that goes wrong is that people lose their papers, and so they're just released from jail and nobody tries to deport them. The next thing is they turn up and say, well, I'm a Patagonian or something or the other, and they're very nasty to people like me there. You know, I'm a drug smuggler, and they might be nasty to me. It's human rights. So they then say, well, we can't deport you. Now, we've simply got to change that. If somebody comes here from a country, I won't mention any names, and commits a crime, tough. I think they should be thrown back to that country.
The problem is though,
But as you say, the EU law now says we can't do it.
that's it.
And there's only one solution to that.
Now the EU.
So you're in favour of that, Norman, are you?
I've come to the conclusion I wasn't. I was in favour of going in way back, but that wasn't the EU.
You decided
Yeah, but I mean, well, they were half lies at the time.
only half, yeah.
Yes, the EU was a very different organisation.
And what's happened, the whole thing, it's just rolled on, and it's like a big snowball.
Got to be.
And in the beginning, it was supposed to be a trade thing.
Yes,
You know, about
I have to disagree that was the intention right from day one.
Really?
Right from day
Well, I
one.
don't think the members of the public knew that.
We were all deceived, completely deceived.
I mean, Harold Wilson
was playing right away from our
The other thing that I discovered, and I didn't discover this until I was in the government, going back and forth to Brussels, and I did a hell of a lot of that work, even as a junior minister, because my bosses, one was John Knott and one was Keith Taylor, and neither of them liked going to Brussels, so I always got sent. And after a while, I discovered that the assumptions of these guys on the other side of the table, and around the side, as we're sitting now, was different to mine. Nice guys, liked them, enjoyed their company, could do a good deal with them. But their view was that governments make laws, people obey laws. They didn't think the government had to obey the law. And of course that's the case still today with the EU. You have to put in your accounts, and they have to be audited. Our accounts? Oh, we don't have our accounts audited. We can do these things. You don't have to. And it's a very different attitude between this side of the channel and that side of the channel. You talk to them about free speech, and they say, yes, we've got a right to free speech because we got it under the legislation passed in 1947 or something or the other. We don't have that. There's no Free Speech Act in this country. The only thing that government can do to us is to restrict our right of free speech. We've always had it, it's God-given, it came with our genes because we're British.
Well, I'm not too sure.
It's getting dodgier and dodgier. As you know now, people get taken off to the station for saying all sorts of things.
And that seems to be a bigger crime to speak your mind than actually coming in here and robbing Sharon's till or something. You know, the old chap in the paper yesterday who refused to pay his council tax, he's gone to prison for 30 days, I believe it is.
Yes.
But someone who commits 38 serious crimes, he doesn't go away until his 39th crime, and he's an immigrant as well. So it seems we want to punish our own people with the least crimes. Council tax is rising so great. You know, you were saying you don't want to move out of London, or you can't afford to stay rather. Well, we can't afford to stay in the suburbs now because everything is getting out of hand. The council tax, the utility bills are going through the roof, and we're just tax. And we're the people, you know, that were born here. I'm not racial at all, but we were born here and we pay our taxes, whereas the illegal immigrants coming in here, they send all their tax back to their own country. They give them the money the economy on the floor.
Because I wanted to I wanted to bring that back to Norman's comments a few months ago about the family unit. When I was a kid, we lived in one street with mum and dad, 3 brothers, and my auntie and uncle lived in the next street and 2 cousins. I went to primary school with my cousin, so we were all in and out of each other's houses. And in those days, even if you weren't related to other people in the house, there was a sort of communal living. And you went past, as you went in the front door, you went past someone's bedroom, you went up the landing and someone was doing their tea, and then you went up to the next landing and you got to your own room. So it was a great way of, I don't say it's maybe right now, but I think if you have this sort of this type of community that you can have your families, and you get this to a certain extent, I think, in Europe as well. But now I'm saying, when you get back to council tax, I was just having a private, for instance, there's no way, you have to move out. I mean, I moved out of London 30 years ago, I've never really got back within 50 miles of London.
What you